This is the Maggie McGuire Show.
We are still unpacking childhood trauma. We have Reverend Victor Godwins and his wife, Reverend Success Godwin, and you will hear things that will probably help you, connect some dots and help you just navigate into a full, happy life.
Now, when we talk about childhood trauma, there is a lot to unpick with childhood trauma. Childhood trauma is an event that happens in the life of either an adult who's currently an adult, but when you were a child, you go through an event that has either it could be an event of neglect or abandonment, an event of sexual exploitation, an event of psychological abuse, emotional abuse. And these trauma are very subtle because very often, if not dealt with, either psychologically, if not dealt with by psychologists or either by cognitive behavioral therapy, it does impact on your adulthood. Now, being a social worker, apart from the fact that I said that I work as a manager in social services, being a social worker, we know the impact of childhood trauma. We deal with a lot of adults who have childhood trauma, and thereby, when they grow up, they find it very difficult to function in their day-to-day activity because that trauma is repressed. Because it's from childhood, it is repressed and it's within the unconscious mind.
Welcoming Christ into our life that changed that mindset, that traumatic, behavior that I might say, oh, okay, so I can live like my dad. I could drink, I could marry, different wives. That's traumatic, and a lot of men have passed this on to their sons, to their next generation, and that is why you see young men not being able to stay in one relationship because they have seen and viewed what their father did. So it could be traumatic to some, and some can see it as, oh, okay, this is normal, and they become an abuser in another lady's relationship. And they'll think, oh, it doesn't matter because my dad, had done that.
When I met my husband, right, I saw certain traits of my mother, like shouting, yelling, and screaming. And I would try to copy that to my partner because I didn't know anything else. That's what I saw. I knew I didn't want a man that was physically violent, like my dad was. My dad was a drunk. He would exploit alcohol, come home drunk, beat up my brother and everything. And I used to think this is quite a chaotic family for a child to grow up in.
Right.
I didn't want that for my home. So when I met with Reverend Victor, initially I saw a repertoire of this with me and him. I saw a repetition, a pattern. I saw myself becoming a nagging woman. I mean, we were just dating. We weren't married at that time.
Yes, because that's what you grew up.
That's what I grew up with.
So that was what was modeled for you, and that was your norm.
Absolutely.
That was your norm.
But it got to a point where I thought to myself, this isn't what I wanted. And then I began to regress back to my childhood, and I thought, I always remembered that I used to say to God, I don't want to repeat the life of my mother.
And that is what changed our life. And again, we now say, okay, Lord, this is our background. Now we are born of you. We are born of the Spirit. Now Holy Spirit take over. And that is when we now went into intensive prayer.
Those of you who are taking note it. Intensive prayer. Because I think that's where people miss it. Because when we say intensive prayer, we're not talking of prayer where you just say for 1 minute. It's a prayer is a therapy. Because I had a very sharp tongue, and he would just look at me and he won't say anything. So I had to unlearn all of that when we got married. And I had to ask Holy Spirit to work on me. And I think that's the most important thing, working on yourself. It's a gradual process, Atom. Trust me, it's not something that happens overnight, but you do have to unlearn those behaviors, and it's consciously.
If you punish your wife, you are punishing yourself. You are delaying your breakthrough. Because why? God, as I said in the book, marriage or relationship is an assignment, is a mission. Church is not the first mission. No, your wife, that relationship you're about to go in is your mission that God has sent you to. So it is God first, family second, and what? Ministry third.
When you hear their sons say, we want a marriage like our parents, trust me, that's a happy home. That's a happy home, you know, and that's just the power of God. So you guys have basically rewritten family pattern. So the new baton, y'all are passing on a brand new baton. I'm sorry, I knew I was going to break out in tongues at some point.